High school can be pretty tough, but sophomore year was turning out to be the worst. It all started when I got assigned a new locker. It was an old, rusty one at the end of the hallway, far from my friends. I was already dreading it. The first time I opened it, a chill ran down my spine. The locker was colder than the rest of the school, and it had a strange, musty smell. I brushed it off, thinking it was just because it hadn't been used in a while. Little did I know, that locker had a dark history. One day, I found an old, crumpled note inside. It simply read, "Help me." I showed it to my friend Jenna, who laughed it off, saying it was probably just a prank. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As the days passed, strange things started happening. My textbooks would go missing, only to reappear later, covered in dust and dirt. Sometimes, I'd hear faint whispers when I was near the locker, like someone was trying to communicate with me. One evening, I stayed late to finish a project in the library. By the time I left, the school was empty and eerily quiet. I went to my locker to grab my bag, but as soon as I opened it, a cold gust of wind blew out, sending shivers down my spine. I heard the whispering again, but this time, it was louder and more desperate. "Help me. Please." I looked around, but no one was there. I decided to investigate. I pulled everything out of the locker and noticed something strange at the back, a small, hidden compartment. With trembling hands, I pried it open and found an old journal. The journal belonged to a girl named Emily who had gone to our school years ago. As I flipped through the pages, I discovered that Emily had been bullied relentlessly. The final entry sent chills down my spine. "I can't take it anymore. They locked me in here. If anyone finds this, please help me." Suddenly, everything made sense. The cold locker, the whispers, the missing items, Emily's spirit was trapped, seeking help. Determined to free her, I took the journal to the school counselor the next day. The counselor listened intently and promised to look into it. That night, I had a vivid dream. Emily appeared, her face sad but hopeful. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm finally free." The next morning, the counselor told me they had found out about Emily's tragic story and would be honoring her memory. The locker was removed, and a small memorial was set up in the school courtyard. From that day on, the strange occurrences stopped. I felt a sense of peace, knowing that Emily's spirit had found rest. High school wasn't easy, but helping Emily find closure made it all worth it. Senior year is supposed to be the best time of your high school life, but for me, it was the most terrifying. It all started when I joined the yearbook committee. I loved photography, so I was excited to be a part of it. Little did I know, I'd be uncovering a dark secret hidden within the pages of past yearbooks. One afternoon, while sorting through old yearbooks in the dusty storage room, I found one from 1985. It looked like any other yearbook, but as I flipped through the pages, I noticed something odd. Some of the students' faces were scratched out, and others had red excess drawn over them. Curious, I asked Mr. Thompson, the history teacher, about it. His face turned pale, and he told me a story I couldn't believe. In 1985, several students had mysteriously disappeared. The yearbook was rumored to be cursed. Anyone whose photo appeared in it with a red X would vanish. At first, I thought it was just a creepy story, but then strange things started happening. One by one, members of the yearbook committee began to act weird. Jenny, who was always bubbly and cheerful, became withdrawn and scared. Mark, the class clown, started seeing things that weren't there. One night, I stayed late to finish editing some photos. The school was empty, and the only sound was the hum of the fluorescent lights. As I worked, I felt a cold breeze and heard faint whispers. Looking around, I saw nothing, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. Suddenly, the computer screen flickered, and a message appeared. you will be next." My heart raced as I tried to shut down the computer, but it wouldn't turn off. The room grew colder, and the whispers grew louder. I grabbed my things and ran out of there, my mind racing with fear. The next day, Jenny didn't show up to school. Neither did Mark. Panic spread among the committee members, and we decided to confront Mr. Thompson again. This time, he told us the truth. The curse was real, and it was tied to a student named Sarah who had died tragically in 1985. She had been bullied and tormented, and in her final moments, she cursed the yearbook, vowing to take revenge on those who wronged her. Determined to break the curse, we searched for Sarah's old locker. Inside, we found her diary, which detailed the bullying she endured and the curse she cast. It also mentioned a way to break the curse. We had to burn the cursed yearbook and hold a memorial for Sarah. That night, we gathered in the school courtyard, the cursed yearbook in hand. As we set it on fire, the wind howled, and the flames danced wildly. We held a small memorial for Sarah, honoring her memory and promising to remember the lessons learned from her tragic story. The strange occurrences stopped, and Jenny and Mark returned, unharmed but with no memory of what happened. The yearbook committee continued its work, but we made sure to always treat each other with kindness and respect. Senior year was still filled with challenges, but breaking the curse and honoring Sarah's memory brought our class closer together. We learned that the past should never be forgotten and that the way we treat each other can have lasting effects, even beyond the grave. High school gym class was never my favorite, but it was about to become the stuff of nightmares. It all began during our basketball practice. The gym was old, with creaky floors and flickering lights. There were rumors that it was haunted, but I never believed them until that fateful night. We were practicing late, preparing for an upcoming game. Coach Miller had stepped out for a moment, leaving us to run drills. As I was shooting free throws, I noticed something strange out of the corner of my eye. A shadowy figure was standing near the bleachers, watching us. I paused, squinting to get a better look, but the figure vanished. "Did you see that?" I asked my friend Tom, who was rebounding for me. "See what?" he replied, looking confused. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just my imagination. But then it happened again. The figure appeared, closer this time, and disappeared just as quickly. A sense of unease settled over me, but I tried to focus on the practice. Later, in the locker room, I mentioned it to the team. Some of them laughed, saying it was probably just a trick of the light. But others, like Jenna, looked genuinely concerned. "My older brother told me about a ghost in the gym," Jenna said. "He said it was a student who died here years ago. They say he still haunts the place." That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I decided to do some research. I stayed up late, scrolling through old news articles and yearbooks. Finally, I found it, a story about a student named Kevin who had died in a freak accident during a basketball game 20 years ago. According to the article, Kevin had been a talented player, but he collapsed on the court and never got up. The cause of death was never determined to find out more. I returned to the gym the next night. The place was empty, and the silence was unsettling. I walked to the spot where I had seen the figure and called out, "Kevin, are you here?" At first, there was nothing but silence. Then, a cold breeze swept through the gym, and I heard a faint whisper. "Help me." My heart pounded as I looked around, trying to see where the voice was coming from. The figure appeared again, this time standing right in front of me. Kevin's face was pale, his eyes sad and hollow. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Help me," he repeated, his voice echoing through the gym. "I can't leave." I realized that Kevin's spirit was trapped, unable to move on. Determined to help him, I researched ways to communicate with spirits. I learned that sometimes, spirits are stuck because they have unfinished business or because they died tragically. The next day, I gathered my friends and told them what I had discovered. We decided to hold a small ceremony for Kevin, to honor his memory and help him find peace. We lit candles and placed them around the gym, and I read a few lines from the article about his life. As we stood there in silence, a cold breeze swept through the gym again, but this time it felt different, more peaceful. The figure of Kevin appeared one last time, his face now calm and serene. "Thank you," he whispered before fading away. From that night on, the gym felt different. The strange occurrences stopped, and the place seemed lighter, happier. We still practiced late into the night, but there were no more shadowy figures or cold breezes. The story of Kevin's ghost became a thing of the past, a legend we told to incoming freshmen to scare them, but for us, it was a reminder of the power of kindness and remembrance. The experience brought our team closer together. We played not just for ourselves, but for Kevin, dedicating our games to his memory. It felt like he was with us, guiding us and cheering us on from the other side. Months later, as we were preparing for the championship game, I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't felt before. The gym, once a place of fear, had become a sanctuary. We won the game, and as the final buzzer sounded, I could almost feel Kevin's presence, celebrating with us. High school is filled with challenges, and sometimes it feels like the past can haunt us. But our encounter with Kevin taught us that even the most frightening experiences can be turned into something positive. By facing our fears and helping those in need, we found a sense of unity and strength that carried us through our senior year and beyond.